February 28, 2026. At 6:27 a.m., the United States, alongside Israel, struck Iran.
The United States military began major combat operations in Iran.
Within hours, Iran did something it had threatened for decades but never actually did. It shut the Strait of Hormuz.
This is Sepah Navy. From now on, all navigating through the Strait of Hormuz is forbidden.
And just like that, shipping through one of the busiest corridors on Earth came to a standstill, stranding hundreds of tankers in open water and soaring global energy prices overnight. And in the days that followed, industry leaders predicted that the price of jet fuel would not just rise sharply, the world would essentially run out of it.
Travelers now facing a new challenge, with airlines increasing their prices.
It could raise ticket prices by as much as 20%.
Marking the end of the cheap flights that defined the early 21st century. But here's the strange part. The sheer oil jet fuel shortage and expensive airfares everyone braced for haven't actually happened yet. So, what's going on? See, here's the thing. Oil is only one half of this story. The other half reveals a far bigger shock that's about to hit. One that will mark the end of budget travel as we know it. But before we understand why your next flight is about to get very expensive, let's first understand what makes air travel affordable in the first place. Because for most of aviation history, it was not affordable at all. You see, before the late 1970s, a federal agency called the Civil Aeronautics Board controlled almost everything about flying in America. It decided which airlines were allowed to fly, which routes they could take, and exactly how much they could charge. Competition on price was effectively illegal. So airlines competed on luxury instead, with a single round trip costing thousands of dollars. Flying was essentially a privilege reserved for the wealthy and the well-connected. Then, everything changed. In 1978, President Jimmy Carter signs the Airline Deregulation Act.
We are chopping down the thicket of unnecessary federal regulations by which government too often interferes in our personal lives and our personal business.
And the government protections that had kept fares high for decades disappeared almost overnight. Suddenly, anyone could compete on price. And into that opening rushed a new kind of lean operators like Southwest and People Express that existed for one reason: to fly you somewhere for as little money as humanly possible.
For just $99, People Express will fly you to the West Coast.
And the way they did it was something the industry now calls unbundling. The idea is simple. Lure the traveler in with a base fare so low it barely seems real, then charge separately for everything else. The seat you want? That's extra. A meal? That's extra. The bag you're carrying? That's extra too. The service is thinner, the experience more basic, the luxury essentially gone. But here's the thing. People didn't care. All they cared about was that they could now fly from one city to another for a price that, just years earlier, would have been unthinkable. The budget revolution was on, and the legacy carriers suddenly woke up to a reality where they were losing, and they needed to act fast. So Bob Crandall, the chief executive of American Airlines at the time, came up with an idea that would flip the entire dynamic of flying. The idea was that if he could not always win on price, he would win on loyalty. The inspiration came from an unlikely place: trading stamps. The little stamps shoppers collected at stores back then and pasted into books to redeem for a watch or a camera. Crandall took that idea and reshaped it for the skies. Instead of stamps, customers would earn miles. So, in 1981, American Airlines launched the very first version of a program called American Advantage.
We invented the Advantage program for frequent flyers, so all those business miles can add up to free vacation trips.
What the American observed next was not surprising. Advantage members were more likely to choose American so they could accumulate enough miles for that free flight. In fact, they were even willing to pay slightly more for an American flight over an equivalent United flight. The miles had essentially created a kind of gravity. Once you were in, you didn't want to start over somewhere else. But you might wonder why I am even explaining this. What does any of it have to do with flights getting expensive? Give me a minute and you will know exactly what I am talking about. You see, during the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic, airlines were bleeding cash. So, naturally, they went looking for a loan. United Airlines, for instance, needed $5 billion, enough to keep the lights on until passengers came back. And of course, a loan that size needs collateral, so that the bank can seize it if you cannot pay it back. But here was the problem. United was not worth much in 2020. The company was losing money by the day, so to borrow against itself would mean handing over an enormous slice of the airline. Instead, it did something unexpected. It offered up one of its subsidiaries, Mileage Plus Holdings, its loyalty program. Now, you might ask what that is even worth. After all, it is just a silly point scheme. This is exactly where things change. You see, whenever a major business event takes place, like taking out a multi-billion-dollar loan, a public company has to file several important documents with the SEC, and one of them is Form 8K. And what United's filing revealed sent a quiet shock through the industry. United's loyalty program was valued at almost $22 billion. The airline itself, the planes, the gates, the brand, all of it was worth around $10 billion. The points program was worth more than double the entire company that owned it. And it wasn't just United. Delta's loyalty program was valued at nearly $26 billion against a market cap of about $20 billion. American was around $25.5 billion, while the whole airline was worth just $6. The pattern was undeniable. For these legacy carriers, the loyalty program had quietly become worth more than the airline itself. And that hidden backing meant that they could absorb almost any shock the world could throw at it. From a pandemic to, more recently, a war. But the budget airlines had no such cushion. When the pandemic gutted travel demand and fuel prices climbed, the low-cost carriers found themselves dangerously exposed. They had no $20 billion loyalty empire to lean on. And so, one by one, budget airlines around the world began to collapse. The carriers that did survive faced an impossible choice: either raise fares or face the same fate. And there is a ripple effect when a budget airline dies. For decades, the moment a low-cost airline entered a market, fares came down across the board because the legacy carriers were forced to match them just to compete. But when those carriers vanish, that pressure vanishes with them. It means fewer choices and significantly higher fares. And then the situation went from bad to worse. When the United States launched military operations against Iran, the consequences for travelers around the globe were immediate. Almost overnight, the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow channel that carries a huge share of the world's oil, came to a standstill, and the steady flow of fuel that the global economy runs on began to choke off. Look at the chart of jet fuel cost in the United States across 2026. And the line goes one direction, up. In Europe, it's the same story, with prices hitting nearly a 4-year high. So far, the disruption may be costing the airline industry an additional $15 billion, and it's hitting the low-cost carriers hardest of all, contributing to the closure of Spirit Airlines in May 2026. But here's what's strange. The massive oil shock everyone braced for, the one where ticket prices double or triple overnight, hasn't actually happened yet. And once you understand why, you'll understand the far bigger shock that's coming. This is a map of global oil flows put together by JP Morgan. Don't worry about all the text, just focus on the red lines. Those red lines are the oil leaving the Middle East. flowing out to the rest of the world. This is the supply that's been cut off. Here it is back in December before the war. There it goes, the oil is flowing. But remember something important. These enormous oil tankers are slow. They move at a speed of around 10 to 16 knots, which is about 11 to 18 miles per hour. So now it's January, and that oil is only just reaching parts of Asia and Europe. We're into February before it touches the United States and other parts of the world. So when the war started and the taps closed, there was still a vast amount of oil already out at sea taking its slow ride around the planet. That is why things feel weirdly normal. For most of the world, the shutdown has not reached us yet. The shortage is real, but it is sailing toward us in slow motion. When those final shipments run out, sometime around mid to late summer, the airlines will have no choice but to raise ticket prices sharply and cover the cost. And yes, the MOU recently signed by Iran and the US will alleviate some of that pressure. But according to International Energy Agency projections, the refineries damaged in the war could take anywhere from 6 months to 2 full years to come back online.
Coming back to the where we were before the crisis may take some time, maybe up to 2 years.
And even that timeline remains uncertain. Airlines that struggle to make money in the best of times may well see this as an opportunity. Raise prices, blame the fuel, and then keep those prices high for far longer than the fuel costs justify. Maybe never bringing them back down at all. Despite this, many budget airlines are likely to face serious headwinds in the coming months and years. According to Wall Street analysts, JetBlue's bankruptcy risk by 2027 is estimated at greater than 75%, and Frontier's hovers somewhere around 50%. But the biggest risk facing the budget carriers isn't fuel prices or competition. It's a new trend that is slowly taking over global aviation. You see, when travel demand recovered after COVID, it didn't just recover in volume, it shifted toward premium travel. According to a report by the New York Times, the footprint of premium seating on US airlines has grown by almost 70% over the past decade. Realizing they can make far more money per square foot of cabin, major carriers are ripping out rows of economy seats and replacing them with premium economy and business class, confident that those seats will be filled consistently. Because for a business simply trying to maximize revenue, the question is brutally simple. Why sell 10 economy seats to budget travelers when you could sell 4 premium economy seats for more money? Lufthansa has openly boasted that premium economy generates around 33% more revenue per square foot than regular economy, and about 6% more than full business class. Delta has gone a step further, announcing that 50% of its future cabins will feature premium seating. Compounding all of this is a shortage of aircraft. Both Boeing and Airbus now have waiting lists stretching close to a decade before an airline can take delivery of a new jet. So carriers can't simply add more planes and more cheap seats to meet demand. They're stuck with the cabins they have, and they're filling them with the most expensive seats that they can. Put it all together, the budget airlines that made flying cheap are slowly collapsing, and carriers that survived have no choice but to charge a premium. So enjoy that cheap seat while you still can, because the next one is going to cost you a lot more.